All right, let's dive into the work of Cheick Diallo, a Malian designer and architect. He's really shifting our perspective on African design. We've got a ton to unpack today: interviews, articles, even some biographical pieces.
Really fascinating stuff, yeah. The way he blends tradition with such innovation, it's remarkable, putting African design on a global stage.
Absolutely. And to understand what drives him, let's go back to his roots.
Yeah.
Born in Mali in 1960, he ends up studying architecture in France. But then, kind of interesting, he specializes in furniture design. What do you think brought about that change? Was it a natural sort of progression from architecture or something else entirely?
That's a really interesting question. You know, architecture, it shapes the world around us, and furniture, well, it inhabits that world, right? It shapes how we experience it. So it's almost like Diallo went from designing the stage to designing the props, the pieces that bring it all to life.
Love that analogy.
Mhm.
And speaking of those props, it's clear that his Malian heritage is deeply ingrained in his work.
Oh, absolutely. He's spoken about how Malians have this deep connection with their living spaces, the way they arrange things, interact with objects. It's not just about looks, it's a whole way of life. And that cultural understanding, it really informs his designs on a fundamental level.
You can definitely feel that cultural influence in his signature style, the fluidity, the sense of movement, and of course, the way he uses those local, often recycled materials. It's so captivating.
It's like he's making us rethink what luxury even means, using things like fishing nets, leather, even used tires, things you wouldn't normally associate with high-end design.
Exactly. But he transforms them into these beautiful high-end pieces. His Riveil chair, for instance, entirely woven fishing nets, but it has this sleek, almost ethereal quality to it. You'd never guess it was made from fishing nets.
And the Eiffel lamp, it's this beautiful dance of light and shadow, showing off his skill with those recycled materials and his deep understanding of both form and function.
And what I find truly inspiring is that his commitment to sustainability goes beyond just aesthetics. It's at the core of his whole design philosophy. He's proving that sustainable design can be luxurious and luxury can be sustainable.
He's not just following some trend, that's for sure. Diallo's commitment to sustainability is deeply rooted. It's like he's starting a conversation about responsible design, showing us that recycled materials can be just as sophisticated, just as beautiful.
Couldn't agree more. And it's not just about his own work either. Diallo was a huge advocate for African design as a whole. In 1996, he founded the Association of Designers Africans. Can you talk about that organization and its role in fostering a new generation of African designers?
The Association of Designers Africans has been absolutely crucial. Imagine a network of designers spanning the entire continent, all collaborating, sharing ideas, pushing the boundaries of African design. That's what this association is all about. It's about creating this dynamic design ecosystem.
So it's more than just promoting individual designers then.
Exactly. It's providing resources, education, opportunities for collaboration. Diallo has even led workshops in different African countries, sharing his knowledge, his experience, encouraging this new wave of designers to embrace their heritage, to create work that's both authentic and innovative.
It's incredible the ripple effect his work has had, and it reaches far beyond just the continent. Diallo's designs have been in exhibitions around the world, including the Africa Remix exhibition. What can you tell me about that exhibition and its significance?
Africa Remix was truly groundbreaking. It went to major museums globally, showcasing the incredible richness and diversity of contemporary African art and design. And for Diallo, it solidified his place as a leading voice in African design. More importantly, though, it put African design in the spotlight, challenging the way people thought about it, showcasing its depth and brilliance to the whole world.
To think that an art exhibit can have such a profound impact on perceptions is pretty remarkable.
It really speaks to the power of art, the way it can connect with people and shift how they see the world. And Diallo is at the forefront of that shift. He's so passionate about making Made in Africa a global benchmark, not just a mark of cultural expression, but a symbol of design excellence.
You see that vision reflected in his own work, which embodies that Made in Africa excellence so perfectly. And speaking of vision, he has this dream of creating a didactic showroom in Bamako.
That sounds fascinating. Can you tell me more about it?
Oh, it's such a cool idea. Imagine a space where young designers can learn, experiment, really showcase their work. It's all about nurturing the next generation of talent, giving them the resources and the platform to truly thrive.
Like a design incubator right in the heart of Mali.
Exactly. But it's more than just a training ground. It's a statement. It's inviting the world to Africa to experience the energy and the potential of African design firsthand.
It fits perfectly with his mission to change global perceptions of African design. It's all interconnected. He's building a legacy, not just through his own designs, but through the designers he inspires and the infrastructure he's creating.
And speaking of inspiring designers, he has some fantastic advice for those starting out, emphasizing the importance of developing a unique style, that signature element that sets your work apart.
And he's all about innovation. He's even said design without innovation simply doesn't exist.
He also stresses designing with a purpose, with the goal of making life better for people.
Designing with generosity, he calls it, making things more functional, more commodious for others.
There's a real sense of altruism in that approach, for sure.
Absolutely. And finally, he talks about storytelling, being able to clearly articulate the story behind your design.
Why do you think that's so crucial in today's world?
Well, because a design without a story is just an object. It's the narrative, the inspiration, the process, the cultural influences that give it depth, that give it meaning, that make it resonate with people on a deeper level.
Diallo seems to have that connection between object and story, intuitively. Each piece has a story to tell, whether it's the materials, the craftsmanship, or the cultural influences that inspired it.
He's a master storyteller, really, weaving narratives into his designs and transforming them from just objects into experiences.
So Diallo is more than just a designer. He's a visionary, a cultural ambassador, a champion for sustainability, and of course for African design.
And there's no denying the impact he's made. Yeah, he's got that drive. I remember reading this interview, he was talking about how people kept telling him, your designs, they're too strong.
Oh, yeah. And instead of getting discouraged, he used that as motivation. Almost like, who are these people anyway? And just forged his own path, created these bold designs, so innovative, true to his vision.
That determination, that's what sets him apart. Not afraid to take risks, to use those unconventional materials, push those boundaries of what we think of as luxury.
It's definitely paid off. Awards, international exhibitions, his pieces are in such high demand. But what's really great is that through it all, he stayed grounded, still deeply connected to his Malian roots, and you see that in how he shares his knowledge, his experience, with the next generation.
His work with local artisans, it's truly inspiring. It's not just about hiring skilled workers, it's about partnership, about collaboration. He even talks about wanting to develop a shared design language,
Yeah.
empowering them to take their skills beyond just the craft and apply them in new ways.
It's like he's building a design movement, a collective force for change. And he's using his position to advocate for Made in Africa as this mark of quality, of innovation.
He really believes in the potential of African design, doesn't shy away from saying it. He's talked about how made in Africa, it's often seen as old-fashioned, just craft. He wants to change that whole narrative, show the world the sophistication, the originality that African design has to offer.
And that's exactly what he's doing. His work is in galleries, exhibitions all over the world, challenging those preconceived notions, exposing people to the beauty, the ingenuity of African design.
He's been very intentional about reaching a broader audience, too, designing pieces specifically for hotels, restaurants, public spaces, showing how versatile his style is, how adaptable.
It's interesting, though, because even with that international recognition, he's still creating pieces for local markets in Mali. It's clear that it's not just about commercial success for him. He wants to see African design flourish at every level.
He's even mentioned that a big chunk of the population in Mali doesn't even know what design is. Sees it as a challenge, yeah, but also a huge opportunity.
And that's where his idea for the didactic showroom comes in, right? It's not just about training designers. It's about educating the public, building that understanding, that appreciation for design right within his own community.
A space where people can really experience the power of design firsthand, see how it can elevate everyday objects, everyday spaces, how it can solve problems, make lives better. It's a powerful vision.
He's definitely thinking long-term, not just focused on the now, but building that foundation for the future of African design. Going back to his advice for young designers, he's really big on finding that unique style, that signature that makes your work stand out.
And innovation, oh, he loves innovation. Design without innovation, he says, doesn't exist.
Right. And designing with a purpose, too.
Yeah.
Creating things that make people's lives better.
Designing with generosity, making things more functional. Commodious is the word he uses.
And then there's that emphasis on storytelling, on being able to communicate the story behind your designs.
So important. Look at his work. Every piece tells a story. The materials, the craft, the cultural influences, it's all there.
It's amazing how he weaves those narratives into his designs.
He's not just making objects, he's changing perceptions, starting those deeper conversations about the role of design in our lives.
It's remarkable. how he balances tradition and innovation, aesthetics and function, commercial success, and social responsibility.
It's a rare combination. It's what makes Cheick Diallo such a force in the design world, a true pioneer. I'm excited to see what he does next.
Me too. Makes you rethink what's possible. He's not just creating objects, he's creating a movement.
And it's definitely a movement worth following.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cheick Diallo is a name you're going to be hearing a lot more of in the coming years.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. His vision, his passion, it's contagious.
And his designs, well, they speak for themselves.
They certainly do.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Cheick Diallo, what stands out to you about his story? What will you take away from this exploration?
For me, it's that unwavering belief in the power of African design. He's not just making beautiful things. He's changing how we see it, inspiring new designers, starting important conversations.
I totally agree. Such a visionary, his ambition is incredible. And that didactic showroom he's planning in Bamako, that's a game changer. It's not just about fostering talent, it's about giving African design a global stage.
And his commitment to sustainability. Using recycled materials, creating these high-end pieces, it's a powerful statement. Luxury and environmental consciousness, they can go hand in hand.
It's a message we all need to hear. And the way he collaborates with those artisans, making them partners in the process, that's special. He's not just elevating materials, he's elevating people.
Building a community, a real movement. That's what makes Cheick Diallo so exciting. More than just a designer, he's a force for change.
And what does all this mean for you listening in? Why should you care about Cheick Diallo and the things he creates?
Because he reminds us, that design, it can be a powerful tool for good. It can be beautiful, it can be innovative, sustainable, and culturally significant, all at the same time.
He's living proof that you don't have to compromise your values to be successful. Sticking to his Malian roots, his commitment to sustainability, his vision for African design, and he's made it work globally.
His story is an inspiration, honestly, to anyone who wants to make a real difference. Passion, creativity, determination, anything's possible.
I love that. It's easy to get swept up in the beauty of his work, but we can't forget the driving force behind it.
Exactly. And that brings up a thought-provoking question, doesn't it? How much does knowing the story behind something, where it comes from, the materials, the people who made it, how much does that change how you experience it?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. As you go about your day, think about the objects around you. What are their stories? Who made them and how? Does understanding those stories, does it make you appreciate those everyday things even more?
Diallo's work really pushes us to see design as more than just aesthetics. It's a powerful way to communicate, to express culture, to bring about social change.
He's not just creating beautiful objects, he's changing how we see the world. And that's a legacy worth celebrating.